Welcome everyone. Today, or in this session, we're going to talk about teaching the SMUFlex and connecting your virtual and face-to-face classroom. So we'll talk a little bit about tips and tricks and things to think about to help that experience for both. I do want to start with some information. You know, the university has been polling students and trying to get their feedback on, you know, what has been their experience? Do they feel connected? And one of the things that came out of that survey is really there's kind of been an equal balance. Sometimes if they were online, they felt more connected, believe it or not, to the instructor than if they were face-to-face, and vice versa. So it was kind of an even weighing. You know, it wasn't like, oh, the face-to-face students always felt more connected. That wasn't necessarily the case. So I wanted to point that out to kind of something to keep in the back of your mind is just because the students are in the classroom, they're not necessarily feeling like you are connecting with them. So in this session, I do want to bring up, so we're going to cover both and hopefully kind of work through those issues and things that you can kind of keep in mind. I do want to point out, I am in Crow 195 doing this session, which does have what's called a D10. I know that not all the classrooms will have a D10. There are some classrooms that will have an OWL, which is a kind of a webcam. It looks like an OWL. And it will be a webcam and audio system that will allow you to do similar things. So depending on the classroom you will have, or you should have one of those technologies to be able to use to try to connect these students. So right now, again, I don't have students in the classroom, but I do want to have you kind of experience it a little bit. I did move the camera. So the camera that is on the stand, I moved it right behind the TV that's down below. Okay, so right now I can see all my online students down below, and I can also look out into the classroom and have that eye contact. And eye contact is really, really important, because if you see me and I'm talking this way, you're not connecting as much with me compared to if I turn around and I'm really talking to you, right? So please adjust the camera to, you know, be conscientious in where the placement of that camera is. How much can they see you? Take a look at the lighting. How is that balanced? A lot of times if the camera is lifted a little, it'll pick up the lighting from the projector and it will make you very dark. So then they can't see your expression. For as much as you can see, you know, I have a mask, so it's already difficult, but at least you can see somewhat my eyes because of the lighting. Honestly, I probably shouldn't have worn a white jacket because the white jacket throws off the lighting. So just kind of keep in mind all of those little things. The camera does adjust according to the light that is around them. But most important, do what you can to just have that eye contact, have that camera in front of you so they can kind of connect. If you are teaching online also, that's something, adjust your camera. Don't have them see the top of your head or kind of an awkward position. Really, if you have the camera so they have it's eye-to-eye contact, that's the best experience they can have. So with me moving the camera right in front of me, below is the screen. I see all of my online students, which is awesome. And I can quickly raise my eyes and be able to see and talk to the classroom. Some of the classes that I've witnessed, the faculty is very concerned about their content. And so they'll stand in front of the lectern, look down at, you know, their PowerPoint or whatever, but this isn't connecting. If I'm sitting here, even if I shifted a little bit and I'm just focused here, you can't connect with me. And believe it or not, psychologically, having that eye contact does help connect. So let's talk a little bit about, so we talked about your technology, your D10 and your OWL, your eye contact. The next thing that's super important is audio. And again, from feedback that we have received from students, there has been a struggle in the past semester with audio and students being able to hear. Now, obviously, that's not a problem for the students in the classroom, but it is a problem for the students online. So I would strongly recommend it's okay to do a sound check with your students, right? It's okay to say, for those of you online, can you hear me? It isn't, there's this feeling that, oh, well, that's unprofessional to ask them. Well, it's really more of a problem if they go through all of class and they couldn't hear you than if you ask them at the beginning of class. So feel free to reach out and say, okay, we're getting ready to start. Linda, can you give me a sound check? Can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can. And she would give me a thumbs up and we can move forward. You also come up with a plan for your students to be able to interrupt you if they need to, if they can't hear you, or if they can't see what they need to see. Make sure that you communicate with them and let them know, hey, if at any point in time during the class, if I'm saying, well, look at this, and you guys online don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not showing you the right content, or they can't hear you, give them the okay to say, okay, at any point in time, please interrupt me and tell me that you can't see what I'm showing you, or you can't hear. And then that way it can be remedied right away and give them the opportunity, or give you the opportunity to fix it. But I don't think unless you give them the okay, some people just won't interrupt and will let you keep going, and then it's a negative experience for the student. Okay, all right. Also make sure, one of the things to consider, and I know a lot of you have already adopted this, is being able to make sure you have an equal playing field, right? So if typically you're in class and you handed out papers or you did a questionnaire or whatever, and then your online students don't have access to that, like you can't always consider what are you going to do in class, what are the tasks, and make sure that you have the ability to do both. Like it isn't an advantage to be in the classroom or an advantage to be online. Just really consider your content and what you're going to be doing as far as activities. The next thing is make sure you connect. So if I'm asking questions, okay, I present something and I want to pose a question out to the class, I would make an effort to bounce around, right? So make an effort to say, okay, Johnny, in the classroom, or maybe to say, can I get somebody in the classroom to answer this? And then bounce to, can I get somebody from online to answer this? So make that conscious effort to connect both of those so they don't feel like, oh, she's only asking the people online and we're just here on the side, or vice versa. Okay, so make that conscious effort to connect those two. That way nobody feels left out, right? Nobody feels like it's better to be in person or better to be online. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that all students can share their screen. Okay, so as quickly as I can share my screen right now and I can have somebody online share their screen, students in the classroom can share their screen as well. Okay, so all they would have to do is click on the Zoom app. They don't have to join meeting. They can just click share screen and put the meeting ID in there. So this is a way to kind of engage both students and kind of connect them by by allowing a way to share the screen amongst both online and face-to-face. The other thing is group work, and we'll talk a little bit about how do you handle group work. So let's say that you have some students that are face-to-face and some students that are online, and maybe they have an intermix of, one student is in the classroom and two of the people in their group is is online. How do you handle that? And that could easily happen, and that can easily fluctuate. And so you need to keep in mind, there are some different methods to handle this. One would be to go into a document where they can work on it together. But if they're going to connect together so they can talk, I would recommend for them to go into a breakout room. You start the breakout room, but the students that are in the classroom must have headphones, okay? The second you don't have headphones, you're going to have that feedback, all right? So just keep in mind, you can initiate a breakout room. Your students can join Zoom in the classroom as long as they have headphones, all right? If at any point in time you do have some feedback, let's say you have a student that didn't have a headphone at the time, or you quickly want to change it, make sure you mute right away, wherever your audio is coming from. So if you have a D10, I can go in here and mute the D10 and it should stop the feedback, hopefully. But just kind of keep that in mind. You can intermix. It is a bit challenging, but it's not impossible to do. And headphones is what is recommended. So another thing, and this is kind of something to think about, and I know it may be a newer idea. If you're familiar with Google Docs, for example, Office 365 has the same capability of collaboration, okay? So what that means is if I sign in to Office 365, and if you don't know how, all you do is you Google SMU Office 365 login, and it'll bring you to the login page. And all of your students have access to this. So then at that point, what I can do is I can start a new document and share that document with who I want to collaborate. So the idea is you can have 5 people in the group, some are online, some are in person, that are collaborating in one document, okay? The next thing that I like to do, and I'm gonna kind of display that. Let's see. What I'd like for you to do is the next thing you can do is use Poll Everywhere, and polling software is really great. Another tool could be Qualtrics. If you haven't used Qualtrics for any type of surveys that you may have done in the past, you can use Qualtrics in your classroom, and so they can fill that out. But just to kind of give you an example, I want to go ahead, I'm going to share my screen from my laptop, and I want you to go ahead and do the poll. And so let me bring this up really quick. All right. Sorry about that. I should have had this shared before. Okay, and I'm going to go up here and look at the share link. And if you're not familiar with the D10, that we will have the recording of this session we did a couple hours ago that will allow you to see it. Okay. So now, what I'd like for you to do is go ahead and go to this link right here, pollev.com/Churchill, and go ahead and fill that out. And again, this is a very simple questionnaire, but it would be something that your students could be able to fill out in the classroom, and also fill out online. Let me see. Let me share responses. Let's see. Was it active? Are you guys able to fill this out?
No, we're not.
Oh, are you kidding me? Okay, hold on. Make sure.
I'm not.
Okay, try now. Maybe
Other people are. So, yep. Yeah, it looks like there's some results coming in.
Yep.
I don't know why someone else also isn't able to. I don't know. So I don't know why some of us are and some of us aren't.
That's interesting. Okay, but this is an example again. Zoom also has a very, very simple polling tool. Again, something where you can get responses and interaction. You could, and now you can't. Oh, here we go. Well, at least nobody said that their break was horrible. That's good. But again, this Poll Everywhere is a great tool. That this is just a simple thing, but you could also do a word cloud if you're brainstorming. There's a lot of different features. If you do not have an account for Poll Everywhere, just put in a ticket at help@smu.edu, and we'll get you set up right away with an account, and you can go in there. So that's just one of the ideas to, again, get that interaction between your students, trying to connect your students in virtual students and your students in the classroom. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. And stop sharing. Okay. The other thing that you'll notice is you probably have a forced, you should have, I think I did that right, a forced pin. So do you see me? And then you also see the classroom? Okay, so what I did there, for those of you that weren't in my previous sessions, is I did a forced pin. So if you have the latest Zoom app, okay, and you are the host, I can force who is going to be pinned. So what I do is I click on the image itself that I want to force, and I can push it to everybody. So let me remove it and tell you exactly the steps. So I move it to the picture that I want to force. I click the three little dots that show up in the corner, and it's actually called Spotlight for Everyone. Okay, and so now I've added myself, the main camera, the spotlight, but now I also want to spotlight the classroom, because we're going to do a class discussion. And so I move my cursor to the picture of the classroom, click the three little dots, and add a spotlight. And so now the connection is you see the classroom and you see me and having a discussion. So for example, if I was a student, I can still, you should still be able, you can see me. So let me see. You can see me pretty good. I can try to have that connection, and you can carry on discussions. So if you typically had a discussion-based class, it's a simple way of being able to communicate and being able to have that connection with the student. Another thing, kind of on that same point, I can add other spotlights. So if you're doing let's say a presentation, it's going to be 4 different students, or maybe you have a guest speaker. I can add more spotlights to that and push that down to all of the users as well. So then the focus, rather than the focus being the whoever spoke last, or wherever the audio is coming from, it'll be the students that you want spotlighted, especially if you're doing, for example, a presentation where it's really visible. You want those people focused. And yes, I saw a question come up. So the 3 little dots, I don't know if I force it. I don't know if they come up with you, but if I remove the pin, let me remove the pin for everybody. If I remove the spotlight, then you should be able to see the 3 little dots. And kind of on a side note, the host can only spotlight, but if I don't have any spotlights on, I believe as a user, you can go and spotlight. So if you're a student and you wanted to spotlight the professor, the main camera, and I forgot to do it, then you can go in and spotlight those specific users. So again, and I do want to bring up, and I know that there has been a little bit of a struggle in getting students to come to the classroom. And I know that throughout the semester, especially undergrad, you know, the classes start bigger and slowly they start dwindling to only a few students. And I know that's so hard and frustrating, but there's this balance, right? You want to make sure you create that feeling of, it doesn't matter if you're an online student or a face-to-face student, the experience is going to be the same. But then at the same time, you want your students to come into the classroom. And I would say it's like, it's really hard, having been an online student for a long time, like it's really hard to justify if your class is only lecture based. It's hard for the students to say, okay, well, I'm going to get up for my 8 o'clock class and be there and sit and listen to a lecture-based class, right? That's just hard. Like, it's human nature to be able to, oh, I'll just sit in my pajamas and watch the class. So just kind of think about your class and what components can you really lure those students in? What components can you add to make sure they want to come to class, to make sure, okay, well, I know I'm going to get lectured, but I don't want to miss out because we do all this interactive stuff that although I can do it online, it's so much better in person or what, you know, whatever. So really kind of focus on your class. And if you are dwindling, if your attendance is dwindling, try to reel them back in by adding those features that you can, those activities or whatever that makes the student want to be there and feel like they would miss out. That the experience, yes, you will do everything you can to make it the same, but it really wouldn't be the same because it's in the classroom and it's engaging and it's, you know, you have that that experience. So I kind of want to open this up for discussions, and I would love to hear if there's things out there for faculty that worked great for them, if they're willing to share what has worked. What has, even things that have not worked, I think that is helpful for all of us to share. So if you want, I think, Jennifer, if you can kind of open up the mics, and if those of you that want to ask questions, feel free to do so.
All right. Well, as people are gaining that ability, I just wanted to ask this question that came through the chat really fast. Does it make sense, or well, there's two, but in some classrooms, the camera is mounted like on the back of the room, or it can't be moved wherever it's mounted. So what do you suggest to do in those situations when you don't have the control you do right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that you have some control, and I don't know what classrooms that was referring to. But I think, for example, for Collins, they do have both cameras, so they can pick between the two. I would do what you can to be able to zoom up to you, because like having that close eye-to-eye contact rather than a far away image of you just talking is so much more personal, and you become so much more connected. I know that faculty like to move around and walk around, but really, like, because you have this mixture of students online, try to do what you can to zoom in as much as possible. And I know if the Collins classrooms, for example, have that big camera, but they also have the one that's on the stand. And my recommendation is, if you are in that classroom, to pick the one on the stand and really set it where you know that you're going to be looking at it the majority of the time.
All right. And then, sorry to hog this, but another question that came in earlier was, does it make sense for students who come in person to still bring their laptops and log into Zoom so they can participate in polls? Or how would you balance that?
Well, if you're doing polling and you have a mixture, I would recommend to use Poll Everywhere, because with Poll Everywhere, you don't have to join the meeting. Where it becomes a problem is when students join the meeting in the classroom and join the audio, because the second they join the audio, even though they mute, you will have feedback because of the loop. So, and I can tell you, we've tried it, and some classes have tried it and were successful. But if you have a larger class and you tell everybody to join, it only takes one person to join with audio, and all of a sudden you have this crazy sound feedback loop that becomes really difficult to manage. So poll everywhere, if you want everybody to do polls and stuff. The great thing though about a poll everywhere is you can do it on your phone. So you don't have to have a laptop if you don't want them to have a laptop out. Any other questions that came through?
I think I'll let people just go ahead and, pop up, shout it out.
So if anyone has any questions, or I would love to get feedback on things that worked in the past, things that didn't, maybe some challenges that we can kind of address kind of together.
So Christina,
Yes.
I think several of us had an issue with the poll everywhere, where we got this error message that says Churchill's presentation is underway. As soon as the activity is active, you'll see it on the screen here, stay put. But it never actually happened. So how do you troubleshoot that? If I were to use poll everywhere and my students got that message, what would I do?
Well, I think what the problem is I forgot to activate it. So I set up, so in poll everywhere, you set it up, and then you have to absolutely activate it. And I thought I activated it already. And then I think I disconnected because I was off on a different topic. So that was the problem with that. But, if you're having issues with poll everywhere, I would test it out, right? So before class, set one up, join with your phone, make sure it kind of all works, and then go ahead and use it. You can contact the help desk, but obviously at the time of while you're doing class, it's not feasible to do that for a poll. So my recommendation would be is go in there, practice, and make sure that you're confident with it so you're not frazzled, in front of all the students on how to do it, like I was.
So just to be clear, so poll everywhere they can use even if they're not logged into Zoom. They can just do it, and they can just do it on a phone or an iPad or any kind of device that has connectivity.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. The other thing, one of the things that we've incorporated in the school business in some of the courses was Qualtrics. So anything that, for example, if you do presentations, let's say that a group is doing a presentation and then the other students do a peer review of the presentation, for example. What we've done, in the past, maybe they handed out sheets of paper. Okay, you get to judge, did they have good eye contact? Did they have a good, whatever the different criteria were. In the past, they would hand out these paper and the faculty would tally everything. Well, what we've done is we've incorporated Qualtrics. So something to consider, Qualtrics is awesome if you've never used it. Kind of the equivalent of what people may know as SurveyMonkey or whatever, but so I can go in, set up a bunch of questions, and then send out either a QR code or a URL, and the students, both in the classroom and online, can just fill it out and you can get feedback. The great thing about Qualtrics is it gives you a spreadsheet with all the data, right? So for these presentation classes that I had a faculty do, she used to do it where only the students only judged a few of the sessions, a few of the presentations. Now she's doing where everybody has to do all of the presentations because no one's tallying anything. So she set up this questionnaire and she shares the link to the questionnaire. The students do the presentation, and then on their phone, they fill out and give feedback. And right away, that is all tallied and all given to you in a spreadsheet that then you can communicate with your students what their peers think they did on their presentations. So that's just something to think about. We may have some sessions in the future on Qualtrics. I also, if you want to reach out to me, I have a recording. I did a training session. I have a recording for that. So if you're interested, let me know. But that was very valuable. Again, something that they used to do on paper that now everybody can quickly get results of surveys right away, data surveys.
And Christina, do faculty have full access to Qualtrics?
Yes, yes. So all you need to do is do a search, Qualtrics login SMU into Google, and it'll bring you to the login page, which kind of brings me into one thing that I forgot to mention. So all of your students also have access not only to Qualtrics, but also to the Zoom. So many students don't know, but if let's say I'm working on a group project, I can go in as a student and log into Zoom and set up a meeting. So if they're doing any type of collaboration, especially if it's mixed, you know, you have some students that never see the online students, vice versa, they don't have to meet physically anymore. They can just all log into Zoom. One of the students sets up a Zoom meeting and they can go from there. So just know that not all students know that they have access to the same type of account that you as faculty have access to in Zoom.
Christina.
Yes.
I use that same kind of classroom for my last class, and I don't understand, and somehow I missed it, that spotlight thing. I don't know how to do that because I had to always repeat questions from my students in the classroom so that my people that were online could hear them, and I didn't know anything about spotlight. Can you go over that again for me, please? I may be the only one, but I don't know.
So, okay, so let me clarify a little bit. Spotlight will spotlight the video, okay? So, and what I did as the host, I just hover over whoever I want to spotlight. I hover over their image, and 3 little dots on the far right will appear. I click on those 3 little dots and I can click on spotlight for everyone. So that will spotlight the image itself. It's not the audio. Now, in the past, you did have audio problems, right? You had, and there still may be a few classrooms that will not pick up audio for the students that are in the classroom. In this particular session, I'm using the new technology that's been placed in most of the classrooms that's called a D10. So, and if you weren't in on the session for D10 that I did a couple hours ago, there will be the recording of this session. But if your classroom has a D10, the audio is picked up from this device. And so now, because of the technology of the microphone, I can be sitting in the back of the classroom and you'll still be able to hear me. So I can walk over here and you're able, let's see. So I'm in a Cox classroom. I'm in the 3rd row back, and can you hear me okay? Thumbs up if you can. Yes, awesome. So the audio is picked up from that. Now, if your classroom doesn't have a D10, some of the classrooms have an owl, and the owl does a similar thing. Okay, so there is new technology, if you taught back in the fall, that has been added to the classroom to have that connection of audio between the students in the classroom and online. Does that help?
Yeah, it does help a bit. So let me just repeat. I've got people online and I got people in the classroom, and Sally Jane I want her to answer a question, or she wants to say something to me. I just put my mouse over her and click her, and then you can hear her better. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's automatic.
Oh, okay, because I mean, they could hear in the classroom, but I just wasn't sure that everybody online could hear Sally Jane since she was in the class. I'm making that name up, of course.
No. So the audio you have to do nothing except for at the beginning of your meeting, you need to connect the equipment, right? So yeah. At the beginning of my meeting, I connected the D10. I started the meeting with the D10. So now it uses the microphone from the D10. So I'm in the classroom. You can hear me pretty good. I mean, I'm speaking kind of in a louder voice probably. If I could probably speak in a lower voice, I think it'll still pick it up. So to do this, you don't have to do anything but connect to the meeting, right? It's automatic. Now, to spotlight, that is to force the view of the picture of the webcam. So right now, I forced view of the classroom and of the image in front of the webcam. And so then the audio is going to flow again to the D10, but the video is forced. Right, and I can remove that force. I don't have to have that, but I felt like for a better experience, that's what I did.
Okay, I get it now. So they can hear them, but they may not see who that person is. Is that right?
Well, they'll be able to see from the image of the classroom.
Right. Yeah. But if I got it.
But to your point, if everybody has masks on, right? So it's hard to tell who's moving their mouth, and so you may come up with a system. Okay. If you're going to talk, please raise your hand before you start talking so we know who's talking. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. It does. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Christina, we had a question about the poll everywhere. Can another student in poll, like if the poll is going on, answer the poll for another student? So like somebody's considering using it to take roll. And is it possible for them to like, count another person as present who isn't actually there?
So, okay, because a while back I tried to set this up. I wanted to try to see if I could use Poll Everywhere as a solution. This is the problem, is that unless you have everybody sign up for an account, even if it's a free account of Poll Everywhere, it doesn't verify who that person is. Does that make sense? So technically it's not double checking the authentication of who that person is. So if I had a laptop and I had an iPad and I had an iPhone, I could go to that website that I shared and still be able to, I still can put in 3 and you wouldn't know, right? So it's more from an anonymous thing than for any type of attendance. I've tested this out because I was trying to use it as a solution and it was not working very well. Any other questions?
Christina, I had a question, or if maybe you have some ideas. One of the things that I found more difficult, or that caused, I don't know, problems, but it was problematic, was connecting the students that were in class with the online when they were having a discussion. I know that with the D10 setup, you're looking at a monitor with all of the students online.
Right.
In order, can you project that onto the largest or the big screen in front of the class? And with the D10, I think it might be easier. What if you don't have the D10 technology in your classroom? What do you suggest then? Because it would seem like when students were online and they were talking, we were trying to have a discussion, I would have to really be mindful of, okay, make sure that the in-person students are able to see the online students without having to join Zoom, right? Because that would be another way, things of that nature.
Yes. So what I did right now, just to give you an example, and I don't know if you can see behind me a little bit, is, I connected to my lectern, right? I connected to the meeting and I'm projecting, I removed the pins. So now you guys can see whatever you want to see, but I projected it, hold on just a second. I clicked on view and I clicked on gallery view. And so now I'm seeing gallery view up here. The other thing is that when you were speaking, you also appeared on the D10 as the main speaker. So not only do I see the gallery view here, I can also see whoever is doing the speaking on this screen. Now, where it's a little bit complicated that you'll have to think through is if I'm sharing content, right? So if I share content, then the content is going to display up here and they won't be able to see everybody on gallery view. Now I always see you down here. I always have that eye connection here, but for your students in the classroom, they wouldn't be able to see, you know, who. Now they'll be able to see the speaker because it does put it like in a film strip kind of thing, but it wouldn't be a gallery view. So you'll have to kind of think through, okay, who do I need to have displayed? Is it important for me to show my PowerPoint, or right now we're going to have a discussion and my PowerPoint's not going to be up? So you'll kind of have to think that through. But right now, if you were sitting in the classroom, you would be able to see everybody that has their camera on in a gallery view up there. And then when you speak, you show up on the D10 as the speaker. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So Christina, on the topic of screen sharing, I was wondering if you could clarify a little bit, because I think we've got some confusion in the chat. Well, in every room, will students be able to screen share without joining the Zoom? Or can you clarify when is that available to them?
Okay, so I know for a fact that if you have a D10, you can share content into the meeting, right? So I can go to the D10, and for those of you that didn't attend, I just clicked here and these three little dots, and there's a option that says share content, and it gives me a special code. And then that code, any student in the classroom can go to the Zoom app and click share screen and do the code. If that was very confusing for you, please watch my session that I did a couple of hours ago, because I cover that in a lot of detail. But as far as being able to share content, I think all they need is the meeting ID. Yes. So I have my laptop here, and all I had to do was
actually, Christina, sorry, I'm bombarding your meeting, but I am in a different building on campus, and I just shared my screen without joining the meeting. So this would work the same even if there wasn't a D10.
No, but you're already in the meeting.
This is from a different device.
Oh, and you just entered the meeting ID?
Yes, I clicked share screen from my Zoom desktop app, and I entered the meeting ID and shared my screen. Now, one thing you will have to have on your settings that participants are allowed to share their screen.
Yes.
But as long as you have that, no matter what device is in your room, if you're connected to Zoom, students can do this.
So two key things though, they need to know the meeting ID number, right? They need to know, I mean, somebody can't automatically, and at the same time be really conscientious that when you turn that security off, anyone can share their screen, right? So, you know, be really careful as far as that, and not, you know, you guys all have heard about Zoom bombing and so forth. So be really conscientious as far as turning that option on to allow your students to share their screen. So, but thank you for clarifying that. So yes, wirelessly, all you need is that meeting ID, and you need the Zoom app, and they can share the screen.
Well, I think that kind of created the confusion all over again, because I was sort of under the impression this could only work with a D10 room, but now are we saying that it can work even if you're not in a D10 room?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. You just need the Zoom, the meeting ID. So a couple of things need to happen. As a host, I need to allow participants to share screen. If I don't have that on, then they can't share screen. Nobody but the host can share the screen. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, they need to have the meeting ID. And it could possibly, did it ask you for the passcode too, Faye, when you did that?
It did not, but that could be because I'm a host of this meeting.
And you were logged in.
And I'm going over this in the Zoom Beyond the Basics meeting, so we'll talk about it then too.
And when is that? Is that next after this session?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so if you need more help on specific Zoom issues specific, more advanced, because I feel like this kind of stuff is a little bit more advanced, please join the next session because it'll cover all these kind of little idiosyncrasies that Zoom has.
right.
Any other questions? How are we doing on time?
Well, we are at 4:46, so we are a little past time.
Okay.
I want to make sure everyone has a chance to get up and walk around before the next session. So
Yes, absolutely. We don't want anyone to have Zoom fatigue. But just a reminder, this session was recorded, and so it will be available. I think they're trying to do their best to process all of these videos. No later than Monday, it will be available in the same place where you registered for this. So if you need to review it, it'll be a resource for you. But thank you so much for your time. Hopefully this was helpful to help you through this next semester, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.